Revealing John's truthful words. This is part 18, and I'm going to start at chapter 11 of 35, verse 35, and I pretty much left off with the story of, this is about Lazarus, and Mary, his sister, went to meet Jesus, and then Jesus asked her, where have they laid him? Now, the text says Jesus wept. Well, he didn't need to weep. He knew what he was doing, so this is just not truthful. And the Jews were saying, behold how he loved them. Well, the thing here is the Jews are people that don't believe in Jesus, so it's always funny to see that they're adding Jews there. And some could not see this male who opened the eyes of him and the blind who kept command. Some of them said, could not this male who opened eyes of him who was blind have kept this male? Okay, that's the previous 2 videos ago, but that's the story that when he begins his favorable year of the Lord, this is when he's returning, so that is way out of order. And I'm going to add here the words Mary and Martha. Now I know I'm going to change the word Mary to something other than that, so we know who's who at what time. So when you do a search for Mary, you're getting Jesus's mother in the search. So that's going to be changed. But Mary and Martha and Jesus with a crowd, because the text before actually had Mary coming, or Martha coming to him first, and the crowd came when Mary went to see Jesus. And that's why I had to put with a crowd. Came to the tombs. Now you have to have the word tombs on here because a tomb is where they lay the body. Tombs means that there was many of them there, and they would have many of those places to lay the body on. And that was to check to make sure that the person was dead, completely dead. There's a video below in the description to help you out on that. Therefore, again, being deeply moved within. No, this is just added text that the writer at the time would not know this or not care to put that in. And it had a rolling stone. Now, see, it's talking about it that it's a cave here. But it wasn't. It was something that, or we still have that cave today. It has to be around Jerusalem. It has to be on the road going into Jerusalem from Bethany. And I know the text is going to reveal that where they crucified Jesus was by a graveyard. So the thing here is that graveyard actually can be proven back that it was a potter's field, and a prophet went and proclaimed things there and then broke the pot there and said this is what's going to happen to the nation Judah. And then later they changed it to a graveyard. And this adding of the word cave is wrong. So it would have been something that they would have hewed into the side of the hill going up, and the graveyard would have been here. And there's a rolling stone that covers this opening. So I put a rolling stone, not just a stone laying against this opening. They need to get in and out of the tombs because one, they leave the body there, I think 3 days. And then, and that's the reason why you need a doctor today to check and certify that you are dead. But back then they put the body there for 3 days to see if they would wake up. So they had to have access to go in and out. and then they had put them in the grave. So it was laying against its opening. It was said that I added its opening just to make sure that you understand that you have to get in and out. And Jesus told them to remove the roller, not the stone, but the roller. But Martha said, sister of the deceased, we already know that, so don't need that text. Here it's the time there will be a stench. Well, we don't need to know that. Well, that's not really true either. The body doesn't stink that quickly. It's the intestines that end up causing this gas to form, but it takes more than a day or two. And in the video before, I was explaining that I could not use the word 4 days. And I thought I'd be changing it to 2 days. So here I've decided in the text to put it as 2 days later that he died, and this was the next day. So this is not like something that they knew the body would not stink by that time. So that's just a false statement. And then Jesus said, because we know who he's talking to, they don't need the word her, you will see my glory, YHVH has given me. Did I not say? Okay, yeah, I see I had a question mark. I read it at the end. A glory, not of YHVH, glory of YHVH. You can't glorify our Creator. So it's talking, Jesus needs to have, it's talking about Jesus's glory that our Creator has given him. And this is his favorable year of the Lord, that everybody knew that there was going to be a year of their king walking among them. And it was going to make sure that they knew who he was, the one who is supposed to have a kingdom in heaven. So I had to add the word has given me. Now, these next verses here, still needed to add the word roller here to make it true. Then he's talking to our Creator here. I thank thee, though he thanks you, I thank you for listening to me. This, now here is the verse that I was concerned about in the previous videos when Jesus says that he asked our Father for these healings. And like I said, in some of them, they aren't there, but this text is here to where he is saying this in front of people for them to understand that he seeks the Father, or our Creator, that you listening to me, for I know that you hear me, because our Creator created everything, so everything is our Creator. For your people standing around me, I ask you aloud, not that I said that they will know, that they will believe. See, they had it to where I don't like the word said a lot of times, because it's the action that Jesus is doing is asking our Father. It's already intended up here. So I have to change it to ask. And but what he's just said, I'm adding the word you aloud to you, so that they know that, not that they may believe, no, they don't get to may believe, that they know you sent me, because he's proven himself as their king, and he's done a lot of healings. And you got to remember, he's got the disciples, and this is going back into Jerusalem at the time. So if this is a favorable year of the Lord, John has kind of went to scattered all over the place, but we know that he had just left, and now he's coming back within 2 chapters. So you have to understand the story and why I'm editing it in this way. And it doesn't need that he said these things and he cried out loud with a loud voice. Then with a louder voice, then with a louder, yeah, ER would be louder voice. And with a louder voice, he summoned Lazarus to come to him, not to come forth, but to come to him. So, but in a loud voice, Lazarus, see, I had the word come forth. So let's take a look at what they had said or how the text would have been here. Now, here is the Bible program that I use. It's like it says in the record up on the top, it no longer exists. But as you can see, I click on a word here and it comes over here, and then these words down here are the English words that they use, and then the parenthesis, how many times they use that word. See, Lazarus come forth is what they had. So why did I have this over here? This should not have been there. That's what I was wondering. To come to him. He summoned Lazarus to come to him. Okay. Oops. And I guess that would have shown up in the last one without all the comments around it. So anyways here, now we have Lazarus. He came out of without wrappings around his arm and legs. No, he came out with, he came forth. I changed the word forth to out. It's more understandable. Came out with, this says came forth bound. It's actually a wrapping of cloth around the body, and that was so the insects and animals did not bother the flesh in case the person was or the skin or in case the person was still alive. That's why they put around the spices as well, to keep these insects away. So I have it with his wrappings around his arms, not just his hand, but his arms and legs. See, they only had it as hands and foot. With wrappings for his face, I needed the head and body as well. All around with claws, and it's just not one cloth, it would have been several cloths. And Jesus told them to unwrap him to free him. Not to let him go, but to free him. Well, let me see if over here the word go. Yeah, it's still not as good as what I like to free him. So, sorry, I'm getting over a cold and I've still got dry mouth that even though I drink water, it's not helping. So I don't know how many I'm going to do today here. I'm trying to do 3 of them and do them live and then post them up later as I record. Well, but I'm going to show you that I'm going to stop and I'll start again. Trying to keep them down to 40 minutes. Many, I added the word people because when you say many, you kind of like, okay, who are they? These Jews again are being mentioned and they don't believe Jesus so as their king. So again, the word Jew is used mistakenly. And don't need these words because many people saw and heard what Jesus, not what he did, but Jesus did. And everyone believed in him even more. I had to put even more because they were trying to separate. These are like separate stories. But Jesus is heading into Jerusalem, and he has made himself known by healing all these people. So there is a crowd that's following Jesus all the time here now. So it would have been those there in Bethany that now witnessed this raising of one from the dead. So they were now aware who Jesus is and had heard about him. Now they know this is what's going on. So they would have went out to see him. So I'm just saying that the crowd here at this time, you got to remember also that at this time around the Passover, they were the Israelis, the true believers, were gathering around Jerusalem in the order, the way they camped by tribes in the Sinai. You have to remember that if you're a tribe from, say, Gad, you need to know what priest that you went to make your offering, your sin offering. So the way they camped, and they camped by, well, let me show you how they camped, I guess. Because it's interesting when you start understanding that a lot of this behind the scene, what's going on here. So, these three would have been the first three born, okay? And now, as Simon had been promised by our Creator the land where he walked, he would receive. And Judah is the firstborn, so really Simon should have been over this area here, but this is how it starts. And these three were at the south end of the camp, or the tent for meeting, the doorway. When our Creator set up his tent for meeting, there is text that tells us the direction of the doorway. And the doorway was south because the text says that in the Holy of Holies, when you meet with our Creator, or the priests were meeting with the Creator, our Creator, it was, the curtains were divided on the south side so they could enter. So the first three were here. Now, I don't know the correct order, but if you look, you can see the next three sons, or actually a son from Joseph. He had two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And I believe Ephraim is replacing Levites area that would have been there, okay? Because I believe that Ephraim was the firstborn, okay? So these would have been maybe like on the west side. So it's, at that time, we know that there was a city, Jerusalem, so they were really camped out according to where they could actually camp according to the way you see these sons were born and assigned the land, and how they were assigned the land. And Joseph being the last born here, this would have been on the north side of the, so these three are the last three. So when you're looking for the true order of the tribes for Israel, or the sons from Israel being born, this is the thing that they could not change. They did change the text to who was born first, second, third, and fourth, but the people knew where their forefathers lived, and they could not change this map. So when I made this map, this has the specific order of telling us how they were born as well. So just trying to put a situation on how the you should be looking at what is happening when Jesus is coming in, because they're there to celebrate for 8 days. Okay. So everybody was coming there, and I'm just saying that uh, there would have been a very large following of people from Jesus, because they were all supposed to head to Jerusalem, so they'd be going with him as well. Now, did I finish up here? And then, oh, yes, I believe I need more. Now, I'm changing the word Pharisees to priests, and that's going to be because we have the priests down here, and I'm changing the Pharisees here to leader, okay, and they counseled together. Now, the text is saying some of them ran to the priests. This would have been in Jerusalem, okay? So these priests end up being the tribe priests. There is one priest that is assigned to walk into the Holy of Holy rooms and talk and ask for forgiveness for that person's sin. But you have to understand, they also had attendants. So these priests, they were also priests. And then there was one priest for the king, or the who was assigned as the, because there's no text telling us that there there's like a ruler over them, such as well, we know that Pontius Pilate has the right, or Pilate is accepting the high priest Cephas to, I think that's his name, go in and talk to him and bring people to him. So maybe they're designating him as the ruler, or the head ruler of the Israelis, because the Romans did not fully go in and conquer land and then tell everybody, this is what you have to do. They more or less let them kind of govern themselves, and anything major, then it was taken to the Romans. So what I'm trying to do is trying to set the situation here as these Pharisees are the word Pharisees is wrong. And let me see if I have that, because I had everything set up, but it's not working. So I have to go through and select images that I have made, and this is going to slow it down, but yeah, so I don't have it in this group, so I've really got to pull a lot of yeah. No, I don't have that set up yet. I changed a lot. Anyways, I guess you don't need to know all that stuff. So I'm changing it to the priests, and then there would have been leaders around them, such as judges, scribes, elders. So I'm summing these up as those being as leaders here, because Jesus defined Pharisees, and there's a video in the text below, description below, that Jesus tells us in a few verses. One, they like to sit in the seat of Moses. Well, that means they're judges. Okay, Moses was a judge. Moses was not a king. He was not a prophet. He was the judge for them. In fact, our Creator was had that set up as they were as to judge the people. and he didn't want them to have a king. But they asked for a king at Samuel's time, which means that there's probably about 200 to 300 years missing of text between the time Moses dies and when Samuel appears. But just to let you know that the word Pharisees Jesus describes as judges. And they also like to sit in the front seat or the front row of the synagogue. So they were not an offset sect as the text over here would say, a member of a Jewish sect. No, that's just not true. Okay. Just to let you know that there is so much wrong with the text. As long as you understand the words can be defined by the text around them, such as Jesus defining that they like to sit in the seat of Moses, and you understand Moses was a judge, then we now know that the word Pharisee is just made up, and we know that we can now call them judges. The good guys are not editing the text, otherwise these would not be like that. But it says convene a council. Well, they counseled together is pretty much what I'm going to say. And they discussed, not that they were saying, they discussed what are we going to do, for this male has done many healings too. So it doesn't say that they talked about Lazarus, but that's what they came and told him. Man, the guy just raised a guy that we know has been dead for a day or two, and we know he's dead. And all of a sudden, he commanded him to come out. So, where this male has done many healings too, is what I've got. So there's kind of like you have to assume what's being said here and add it to. Maybe I might change that and add more text later to get the story better informed here and more information inside the stories. And if we let him go on like this, every one of our people will believe he is him. I had to add he is him because this is another assumption that you have to understand, that they didn't believe our creator exists. They were re-editing the text for a long time for their God. And Jesus does say that, and I think it's going to happen here in John towards the end, that he says they edit it for their God. But also up here at the very top, I have a verse from Jesus that says, or you should be aware when you read it, that text, it's saying that the scribes are not being truthful at all times, so you have to become wiser than them, and you can see the wisdom I've been given to show you the truths here. And that's pretty much what all these videos I've done so far are about, is to teach why I'm changing each of these verses or why I'm not using these verses. And the Romans will remove us from our station and ruling our people. So, like I said before, the Romans allowed them to rule over their people, and Romans would have ruled over everybody else that was living in that land. But the object is that the concentration of Israelis or true Hebrews descendants were, I've tried to think of an estimate of how many people would be there at this time. And that's a really, really hard guess. But it could be close to, say, I think a good minimum number is 500,000 people. Then you got to remember all of them are not believers. They're these priests that have that sex practice I've told you about, meditating. And so then there would have been just the unbelievers, but there was the true Israelis that still believed, and those were the ones that are the ones that Jesus keeps telling that they know who I am because they believe. But this where they're worried about their station, not our place, but their station in life, having this authority. Mhm. Okay. Mhm. It was Caiaphas, who was our high priest that year, said to them, "You are not thinking, not that you are not that you know nothing at all." Um, Let me put that up. So now, if this is what's being said by Caiaphas, you know nothing at all. Um, I'm. It's not that what he's going to be telling people about what's going to go on. They would know that, but they're not thinking this at this time. Okay, so that's why I put in that um, they're not thinking, not that they know nothing at all, but they're not thinking. Nor are you taking, nor are you, for you are not taking into account. Yeah, this has to be for. You. Where you are. Oh, if I add this over here, get rid of this, get rid of this word, add this word. Where you are not taking into account. That's what I want to say. Where you are not taking into account. So I have to add the word where you are not taking into account. Now let me see over here. Account. Okay. Well, I added the word pilot as well here. Okay. I had to ask this here because the expedient that you are the how they have this account that it is expedient for you that one man should die for the people and the whole nation, and that the whole nation should not perish. Now, this verse that you're reading here, when you look at this tradition they have of releasing one prisoner, here is trying to say that one should die for the people, and that the whole nation should not perish. Now, that isn't what is actually going to happen. What really happens is they get to release one prisoner that they request. Now, what Jesus is, what they do is they, this time they're going to trick Pilate by their whole ganging up and saying, crucify Jesus because he's there in front of you. And he is making himself to be a king, and you're not supposed to allow anybody to be a king over Israelis because that's, they have the king in Rome. So when we're looking at that text, that one man should die for the people, that is not true at all. So neither is the following part of that. It just doesn't make the sense that we know of the story. So that's pretty much why I've got it taken out here, that one person, because it could be male or female, should not die from our people. That is that they requested that one who was supposed to be crucified, they could, at this time, they could release one. Okay. So, there's not accounting how long was he sentenced to be crucified, and then they had these crucifixions happen once a month, once every 2 months, or whatever. We don't have any timeline like that, but we do know that the people are aware of who they want released, so we have to expect that they didn't immediately cast judgment to crucify a murderer, that there was a time allotment before it would happen. So that's why I've got it written, one person shall not die from our people. That's what's actually what the stories tell us, or the story of Jesus tells us. And this, should not perish, be crucified. Yeah, this just doesn't make any sense at all when I'm trying to even correct it now to change it to what I've got it. One is to be crucified. Should not die from our people, and that one is was let's see, and one is to be crucified. Yeah, I gotta change this. I've got it wrong. It should be, should not die from our people, and not to be crucified. And not, I get rid of this, not be crucified. And that's because they're going to release Barnes, so he isn't going to die, that he should not die by our people. And he was to be crucified, so they're taking him away not to be crucified. So that's the true story of what happened that we know from the other text. No, he didn't. The high priest that year he prophesied. Okay, this cannot be true. Okay. Now, the whole sentence can't be true, because I'm going to explain that how can the high priest prophesy? That means the high priest would have to have been a prophet, and our Creator would have had talk to him and tell him this, and then he would have had taken and announced it to the people. But the problem is he's not going to heaven. He's the bad guy. He don't believe. He's a true Jew. Okay, so the thing here is this verse that he prophesied is just stupidity. The person who put this in does not understand the word prophecy. There are many words that Christians today say, but our Creator has defined them other words. Example, our Creator made man, male and female. So we have the definition of the word man, meaning male and female, but everybody today uses the word man as meaning a male. So the thing here is you're following the secular world by using the secular definition for man. And this is what's happened with so many of these words, that they are not truthfully being bound to what they mean from the Hebrew text. And even in the Hebrew text, a lot of it has been changed to secular meanings. That's why I also complain a lot of times about the word, our Creator defined it as his tent for meeting with him, and it would change to house for meeting with him, and you people call it a temple. You're not thinking the truth out and obeying our Creator. Now, I've got to get through this because this is going to be the end of this video. And Jesus is going to die by our asking him. That's why I had to add the words up here. I had to add the word pilot. I now remember that. So I had to put the word pilot in here to get to the story, because even here, it doesn't tell us about who they're going to get this releasing or what's going to happen to Jesus to die. So, not that the nation only, that he might also gather together into one of children of YHVH'S scattered abroad. This is absolutely non-meaning. There's nothing true to this sentence at all that's in relationship to the story of Jesus. Not that the nation only. There's that, like, they're going to kill off the whole nation. Well, crucifying them would have been that they're all murderers. So this trying to make that the whole nation should not perish is now being kind of backed up here and kind of made for an understanding for what they want to put into the text. I'm here to remove the text that doesn't make sense, or doesn't it doesn't go with the truths that we can reveal through the other verses. Other than that, I'm going to call this video done and go from there in the next one here. So I'm going to stay live.